بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. What was the question now?
Inshallah, we're going to Mauritania, and I plan on staying there for 10 years. What's the criteria to take for a 10-year plan?
This book. You just go and you study the first book of every science, but that's all you study. So you take 6 months, you study Al-Ajrumiyya. You memorize Al-Ajrumiyya, you memorize everything that the Sheikh tells you as far as the explanation until you got that down. Then you go to like a beginning book in like Mustalah Hadith, like not Nushat al-Nadr, but Nukhbat al-Fikr, or Al-Baykuniyya, for example, whatever, whichever one you want to start with. Or Qasb al-Sukr al-Sanani, which is the poem form of Nukhbat al-Fikr. Alright, whatever book you start with, you take that, you memorize it, you go to the Sheikh, he explains it, and you memorize the explanation. 6 months, you go to the next book, Al-Waraqat, and Usul al-Fiqh, memorize that, you study it, memorize the explanation, and go to the next book, Al-Rahbiyya, and inheritance laws. Memorize it, study it, get it, and then you'll probably start to take like, little basics in fiqh. Because now you got all those skills, all the basic skills, so now you want to start to take, like, for example, like, because it's Mauritania, right? So they're not going to be teaching, like, there's a shield there to teach Bulugh al-Maram, but let's just say that you're not with that person. Generally, they teach the Risala from Ibn Abi Zayd, Khairawani. You go, you sit down, you study that. I don't think they memorize that, but they study it. All right, and that's it. And you go back now, and you come back around. Also, you need to take something in Sarf, which is going to be like Lamiyat al-Afal. So you take all those basic matun. Now you study them. Now you come back around to Nahu. And now you go to the next book up, which is Qatar al-Nada, and you study that. Get that down. That's going to probably take about 6 months to a year. It depends on, Now you're going to notice as you come back around, the books are going to get bigger, and the time is going to take longer. All right, but see, the thing is that while you're doing the first round, it doesn't mean that you're finished with Ajrumiyya. You sit down and you revise it with people. Maybe you take a person and you teach it, or whatever, and you just go over Ajrumiyya with somebody. But you got to keep revising these books as you're going around. And you come back around and you do it again. But all you do is you dedicate your time to that one book. So you study Qatar al-Nada, and then you study, I don't know what else they teach in Sarf other than that. As far as them, I don't know what they teach after Lamiyat al-Afal. They teach Al-Fiyah, so you got the Sarf of Al-Fiyah. So you can go ahead and start memorizing that, just the Abwab al-Sarfiyah from Al-Fiyah, and then come back and just memorize the whole entire book. Because that's what they do in Damaj. That's what they used to do in Damaj. As they used to, you had Lamiyat al-Afal, and then you had the Abwab al-Sarf from Al-Fiyah ibn Malik. So they used to teach it separately. So if you studied Al-Fiyah ibn Malik, if you studied Nahu, he's only going to teach you only the Nahu chapters. You had to study the chapters in Sarf with somebody else. Somebody that was split nights, and that was the thing that he taught with Sarf. But they don't do that there. So you're just going to have to wait until you study Al-Fiyah. But you can take the explanations of like Ibn Aqil. You can memorize the chapters on Sarf, and you can go over it, no problem. And you come back and you're going to memorize the next book in Usul al-Fiqh, which I don't know what they do. I know they do Muraqi al-Saud, but that's the Alfiyah. That's gonna be heavy. That's gonna be a big jump going from Waraqat to Muraqi al-Saud. So, but that's what they do. That's what they do. And then at that time, you also need to study something in Balagha. And every time you just keep going around, you just keep getting bigger and bigger. Going up to the biggest books until you get to the final books. And once you start, by then you should have. It's probably gonna be like 6-7 years. You probably finish all the major books that you need to study. And then you just start taking one science at a time. But that's when that's when you're gonna have to leave and be around books, because in Mauritania they're not book people, they're not research people. So you're just gonna get whatever the Sheikh has in his memory. That's it. So you need to, at that time, then you need to work on getting a library and start doing research. So if you want to focus on Hadith, or you want to focus on Tafsir, then you need to take like maybe 2-3 years of just reading only in that science and just researching in that science, you know, and then go on to the next science. And this way that you're using all those skills that you studied, and then you start teaching, you know. You have to be teaching also, because otherwise you're going to forget everything that you studied. So you just keep going. You know, you go from one level, you knock out all the major books, because that way you need to have a functionability in all those different sciences. You know, so it's kind of dumb to sit there and just spend all your time just studying Nahu. Okay, now you finish like Nahu in like 3 years. You finish all the books of Nahu, 3 years, maybe 4 years. Now you memorize Alfiyah. You know everything that there is. You've read all these books about Nahu. You know, you done memorized the explanation of the Shaykh and Alfiyah. And now you can do the Arab of the Quran, and you can do the Arab of Bukhari. But man, the most basic stuff in Usul al-Fiqh, the most basic stuff in fiqh, you don't even understand. So, you don't do that. You get all the basic sciences first, and then you go up to the next level. You get them all again. And you keep knocking them out. And then once you get to the point where now you figure like, okay, this is what I want to spend my time in. I want to focus on research of hadith, or I want to focus on research of fiqh, or I want to focus on tafsir. Tafsir is not like an end-all, be-all science. I wouldn't say like, okay, I'm going to just focus for the rest of my life on tafsir. No, I wouldn't do that, because you're leaving out so many aspects of the religion. But you should dedicate, at least 2-3 years to just reading tafsir. Going through the books of tafsir, looking at, all the different, because it's going to come up when you go and do the research in fiqh. And fiqh is where you want to be spending your time. That's when you want to be going through all the books of hadith. You want to be reading the Fath al-Bari, you want to read the Mughni, you want to read the Muhalla, you want to read through all these books, and then look at all the different opinions and how the people understood the hadith, how they brought the adillah together, all the different issues that they took. That's where you want to spend your life. Not just studying nahu. So you have to get grounded in everything, at least a functionability in everything before you start focusing on just one thing. And also try to memorize the poetry while you're there. Mu'alaqat and things like that. You can do that little by little. You memorize a poem, you go to the sheikh, tell him, I want you to explain this poem to me, and he'll explain it to you. So, alright, so page 37. Alright, so we stopped on drive. It's very, very simple. You can't rely on motivation. Motivation is garbage. Motivation is garbage. Motivation comes and goes. If you don't have that drive to keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you day in and day out, you're not going to get things done. Because you can sit there and listen to like some audio from some sheikh and get all hyped up and say, yeah. Good. How long is that going to last you? 3 days? 4 days?
A day.
Maybe. I'm saying in the beginning it'll last a little bit longer. When I was younger, I used to hear an audio. But then, you got to keep in mind, back in the days where we lived in, we might only have 4 or 5 tapes. And we had to listen to those 4 or 5 tapes over and over and over again. But you guys, you can get on the internet and download anything. You could sit on the internet for one day and download 50 gigabytes of all the different ulama and listen to whatever. But we didn't have it like that. If you had a tape from Sheikh Al-Albani back in those days, it was huge. It's like, wow, if somebody made a tape, a copy of a tape for you for like Sheikh Mubil, it's just like you held on to it with your life, akhi. So us, we could sit there and get motivated from just listening to the same tape over and over and over again. But for how long? How long is that going to last? You memorize the whole tape. Now what are you going to do? So the whole point is now when it comes down to action, if you don't have that drive, then you're done. You're done. You're not gonna be able to see things through to the end. All right, you're gonna get tired. And you're gonna be like, oh man, let me take a day off. Let me get lazy now. Let me do this. Let me, And then what happens is that's it. It's over. It's done. Because once you start to relax, you relied on motivation. You didn't have the drive. Because there's always got to be something that's driving you. Something, some incident, something that happened in your life, something that always pushes somebody to that point where they're like, I can't take it no more. I got to go get out. I got to do this. There's always going to be that thing, and that you got to focus in on that, and, put a laser beam, like a laser focus on that thing and just focus on it and roll with it. and just go. Whatever is driving you, let it drive you. So it could be ignorance, it could be an incident you had with an imam in a masjid where you felt like he just disrespected you when you're trying to tell him about a hadith or something. It could be anything, something that just pushed you, where you're like, I'm done, I got to go get knowledge. And so it's just something has to drive you. You don't have something driving you, it's not, trust me, man. As soon as you start to get sick, as soon as you start to get hungry, as soon as you start to miss your family, as soon as all these things start up, and they're all going to start all like just bam, 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 bam. And then khalas, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You relied on motivation. What happens now? You don't have electricity to go charge your phone up so you can listen to your favorite motivational muhadara. What are you going to do? You're going to be back on the plane, going back to, man, I miss my mama's food. Then you're going to get your mother's food, and then you're going to start crying because you realize what you left. You left it just for that food. So, that's that drive, man. That drive is, to know what you're going out there for, knowing what you're trying to do it for, and keeping that at the forefront of your mind every single day. Every day that you want to get lazy and you want to take the day off, every day, like that, you just keep remembering what you're doing it for. And it just keeps pushing you every single day. So he said, you have to be highly motivated to carry out the task of seeking knowledge to be successful in your studies. The act of seeking knowledge is very tedious. It involves all the actions that the majority of the people hate to do nowadays, such as memorization, intense listening, writing, researching, lots of reading, etc. So all of these things that I mentioned here, these are all things that what? People hate. These are things that people look at like it's a punishment to do. Memorization, who memorizes nowadays? Who? Even these kuffar that memorize the music and stuff, they're doing it passively because they just hear the song so much, but they're not actively grabbing like the lyrics off, printing the lyrics and reading it over and over and over and over again until they memorize it. They're not doing this with poetry. They're not doing with, the only people that I can think of that memorize nowadays are people in law school and actors. Because actors have to memorize their lines, and people in law school, because they do case studies and they have to make like summaries of cases, and they memorize their summaries, for the exams. Other than that, I don't know people who really, really take. But even then, it's not something that they're like, oh, they're going to cut. You got jumper cables. You don't either.
Who needs jump?
Sister downstairs.
Oh, Fatima?
Yeah. I don't want to say her name on the video.
She let them turn the ignition on and just do what they do.
Yeah, so it's I don't have them. My mother doesn't have them, so
she don't have a meter then.
All right. So memorization. Who likes to do that? Nobody. Intense listening. Nobody. Everything, you see people fidgeting when they have to sit back and listen. But now when you're sitting there listening to an alim or a sheikh explaining something, your mind cannot be anywhere else. What you got? Is this homemade? Yeah, I know. Now we got to go get some coffee now, huh?
Let's go.
Yeah, after this. This is ginger, this ain't coffee.
That's ginger?
Yeah.
I'm late.
So intense listening where you're focusing on what the person's saying. You're not thinking about what you're going to say. You're not thinking about what you want to eat for lunch. You're not thinking about anything. You're intense. You're complete focus on what the person is talking about with no distractions. Writing, who likes to write? Your student of knowledge is going to be writing all the time. You have to write notes in class, and you got to go home and rewrite the notes so you can organize them and make them nicer. Because if you don't go home and rewrite the notes, you know what happens? You can't read what you wrote, because when you're writing in class, the teacher's not going to sit there and pause and say, okay, I love, and then he's going to start explaining what a love is and say, let me repeat that again for all the people who are trying to write it. No. So you got to write fast. And a lot of the times when you're writing fast, that means you're going to be dropping words that you know that you'll remember later. So because you're writing fast, or maybe it's just like chicken scratch. So you got to go back home right after the class, and you got to rewrite those notes in another notebook, clearer and nicer and slower, so you can go back and read and understand what you wrote. Who wants to do that? Researching. Well, that goes back to lots of reading. If you don't like to read, then guess what? You're not going to be doing no researching. So, I mean, those two are connected together because the researching involves books. And books that you need to be familiar with so you can go back. So you have already had to do lots of reading before you do the researching. So that 5-year period of you studying, the sciences that you need to just get grounded in the religion, and you should be reading and the science that you're studying as much as possible. So if you're studying Usul al-Fiqh, you should be reading Usul al-Fiqh. You shouldn't be studying Usul al-Fiqh and reading Alfiyat ibn Malik or the Shuruh of Alfiyah. That's stupid because it has no connection with what you're doing at that time. Now you could take a book, like maybe you're reading 2 books in a day, and you can sit back and reread Alfiyah, the Shuruh of Alfiyah if you're doing revision. But not to focus on, not to learn. You're doing it for revision purposes, not to learn purposes. The book that you need to be focusing on is whatever you're studying at the time. And then once you've gotten to that point, now you've read through all these books. Now when you go back to do research, you know where the information's at. You know where it's at. So you can go back and read it. And also researching because you want to go back and maybe you're going through an issue. Whether that issue's in Salat, whether that issue's in Hajj, or whether that issue's in marriage or divorce, you might want to go through different books. And you want to read what different people said about this issue. So you're going to go, you say, okay, what did Imam Shafi'i say? What did Imam Malik say? So you're going to read through all these, just that chapter, just that one issue that you want to read what they said. All of this requires a lot of reading, which requires hours upon hours of sitting in the library, which is also something that people don't want to do. The only people that I know that do this in school nowadays are law students. I think law students, they have to read about 30 to 50 pages a day of cases. So that's when they have classes. So they're the only people I know of in the American miseducation system that actually read, that do research. Other than that, I don't know of anybody else. All right, so all of these things. This is the daily life of a student of knowledge: memorization, intentional listening, writing, researching, lots of reading, and other things. Because sitting in classes, like me, I hate to sit in classes. I hate it. I can read all day. I can do all that. I can sit there read and read and read and read. Put me in a class and dude, are you done?
That was me in
Yeah.
college.
Yeah. So because I already read the book, and I'm looking for extra information that's not in the books. And if he's not giving that, then I start to get angry. And then I'm like, man, I'm out of here, man. I can go back and just get the information from the book. And all he's doing is just saying what's in the book. Give me more information. This is what I came to the class for. But most people, they come to the class just to get what? To understand the book. But I was on the opinion, no, you go to the class, you already understand the book. You're looking for extra information, like the extra things that help you understand. So if he's just going to explain the book, I get bored. And I say, man, I'm done with it. I don't want to study this. I'm going to sit at home and read more books.
See, speaking about this, because this question is very much related to this. If someone, for example, someone's going to study Ajurumiyya with a sheikh, the sheikh is very knowledgeable in this book, should the student go in to the class already memorize that book?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you should already be familiar with the book before you even go to the class. What are you going to the class for? It's kind of stupid, right? You go into a class, you've already memorized it, and you already, you got an understanding of the book, so you know where your problems are. How are you going to fix a problem when you don't know until the sheikh's talking about it? That doesn't even make sense. That's what the majority of people do. And that's why they fail in seeking knowledge. You need to be familiar with the science, and you need to be focusing on what it is that you're having problems understanding. So all that stuff that you read through Al-Ajurumiyya, I was like, I got that. I'm not going to be focused on what he's saying in that. I just want to make sure that I understand correctly, and maybe he gives extra information that I can write down and memorize. Other than that, I just want to go and I want to focus on the things I didn't understand. That's what you study a book for. So, I mean, if you're not even familiar with the book, then why are you studying it? It doesn't even make sense. So That's what people do. I don't know. This is, again, was taught to the people by the American miseducation system. All right, because that's what you do. Every school year, you just go into what? The school year, they say, here are your books. You didn't do no reading over the summer, you know? I mean, and there's no purpose anyways. What are you going to do it for? It's a bunch of garbage that they teach anyways. But, you know. All right, so for you to carry these acts out on a daily basis, you have to have that drive that is going to push you every day to do what you need to do. Why? Because seeking knowledge is very boring for a person who doesn't really have a love for what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? If you just look, like if you were an outsider just watching a student of knowledge all day, that would be the most, like I'm saying, if they made a movie about the life of a student of knowledge or a documentary, that would be a really boring documentary. Because he's just sitting with a book, reading, and he's got a pen or a pencil and he's writing, taking notes. And he goes to another place where there's more books, and he sits, and he gets more books, and he reads, and he writes, and he memorizes, and he goes back to the original place and picks up the smaller books again, and he revises, and reads, and writes. Now, what type of documentary would that be? It would be, you know, I don't think that will get too many views on YouTube. But that's the life, you know, that's what it is. So if you don't really, really, really want that, you know, what are you going to do? You know, like, all right, so he said we can see that type of strong desire to do righteous actions in the Quran in the following ayah. رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. So he said, رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة. So they're not distracted by what? By selling, commerce, and basically the dunya. They're not distracted. Like the dunya does not distract them from doing the things that they have to do. وَلَا بَيْعٌ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. So they're not distracted from the remembrance of Allah. When it comes time for them to sit down and read the Quran, when it comes time to sit down and, you know, try to get an understanding of the deen, they're not distracted by that. وَإِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ. Those distractions that don't stop them from the prayer and from giving the zakat. You know, that they're focused on the acts that they have to do to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا. And they're afraid of a day تَتَقَلَّبُ فِيهِ. The day where the hearts and the eyes will what? Yeah, like they'll just flip. So they're going to be trembling and shaking from out of just complete fear. Yeah, they'll be horrified on that day. So that's what they're preparing for. And nothing distracts them from that. So that's the type of traits that you have to have. You see, like in this ayah, that's where you got to be, where we all got to be at. Here, Allah is referring to His messenger and the companions. We see the Prophet and his companions will not allow any distraction to keep them away from carrying out the commands of Allah. That requires a strong drive, because we get distracted by the stupidest stuff. Wallahi, if you sit back and think about the type of things that distract you on a daily basis, wallahi, it's so stupid. You know, imagine, like, you know, you want to sit down and study, and right when you're about to go close the laptop, you look, and maybe you got like YouTube open or something, right? And you see some stupid video. You know, the history of SpongeBob and why it's destroying the minds of children. And then you go, I got to see that before I start studying. Next thing you know, what happens?
Another one. Part 2.
Exactly. You're sitting there for 2 hours and you haven't even opened the book yet. Because we're so distracted by the dumbest things. Yes or no? Yes. Mm-hmm. Stupid things. You know, but, you know, these types of individuals, those people, not us, are the people that are able to just like, they don't allow those distractions into their lives in the first place. You're not going to see ulama sitting on Google searching for stuff, you know. You're just not going to see that. I've never seen a alim with a laptop or, you know, even playing with his phone. I've never seen it. I've seen she'll sit there and teach for hours and hours and hours and never look at his phone. And, you know, but you see the people nowadays that can't. They, you know, they read, look at the phone. Read, look at the phone. Read, look at the phone. He's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to look at the phone. You know, and puts the book down. You know, I don't even want to read anymore. You know, because that's what really, where the love is. You know, he loves the distractions. He doesn't love the benefit. When you're studying, the days that you do not want to do something are going to be more than the days that you want to do something. And that's with anything. Say that you saw some kung fu movie, So you wanted to go study martial arts. You wanted to be the next Karate Kid, right? And then you saw this. But now when you go and you convince your parents, Mom, sign me up for kung fu classes or karate classes, then what happens is when you go there that first day, what happens?
Yeah.
Or let's say there's boxing. You know, here's a good example because I like the example of boxing. I don't really care about karate. But boxing, right? You see like, you watch Rocky. And now you want to become a boxer. Now you go to the boxing gym for the first day. And it's just the most horrifying experience of your life. They're not going to let you spar because unless you come in there and act arrogant. You know, if you come in there humble, nobody's going to make you spar. But, just getting on the pads, doing the jump rope, hitting the heavy bag, how you going to feel the next day? Sore as I don't know what. Now, what's going to be your excuse? You're going to start to say, man, I don't want to go today. I'm hurt. I don't want to go today. And you're going to start looking for what? Any excuse to do it. So what's going to push you out of bed and get you to go there every single day? What's going to do it when you're in pain like that? It's got to be something. It's got to be some type of drive that you have. Like maybe you've been bullied. Maybe something happened. Maybe this person gets locked up and he just got trampled on out there, and he's like, and never again. Whatever. Who knows whatever it is, the drive that pushes him. But if that ain't there, he's not the next day. If he's just thinking like, oh, I want to go do some boxing because it's cool, man. When he wakes up the next day and he can't sit up out of bed, he's got to what? Fall to the floor, do that help I falling and I can't get up thing, and somebody's gonna have to help him, and he's got to slowly. It takes him 20 minutes just to get to standing position, and now he's got to go back to the gym the next day just because it's cool. He'd be like, what? I'll find something else cool to do. So the same thing, like when you sit there and you're like, no, but that's something physical. See, the thing about seeking knowledge is mental. It's like a lot of reading where you're focused. You're not just like how it is when you don't have the skills, right? So you're all over the place. You're getting corrected like every 2 seconds, right? You're punching wrong. Oh, you're doing this. No, you're too open. No, you're doing, and then you're like, dang, I can't do nothing right. Everything I do is wrong, right? The same thing, right? This is what you're going to be going through. And what if you're one of those people that can't take criticism? You're like like a mama's boy. You got too much estrogen, and when they start telling you this is wrong, you're like, then you go home to your room and you cry and start blowing your nose on a pink tissue. It's like, no, I mean you can't. Like, what's gonna now get you back and go again tomorrow and make all those mistakes again, and make all those mistakes again until you correct them all. What's gonna make you do that? Because that's what separates. That's where, that's what separates those individuals that go towards that 1% to those people that fall back. The people that just dibble dabble, and the people that just like they just try it and then they quit. And the people that just like get to like a certain level, but they never ever go above that level. Like for example, whether it's boxing or whatever. But the same thing with seeking knowledge. You might get to like a certain level, but he never can't make that jump because he doesn't have the discipline. He doesn't have the thing, whatever it takes to make that next step. The best book that was written about this in English was a book that was written by, I think the guy's name is George Leonard. It's called Mastery. You can get this on Amazon. It's a very good book. It's a very, very good book. I read it twice. I have it in Jacksonville. I got to order it again, man. I'm like sitting here ordering all these books for the second time. I'm going to have 2 libraries now. If I get my books from Jacksonville, I'm going to have like 2 copies of every single book because I'm like, oh man, I left that book there, man. It's on over. But that's a very good book about this specific subject about just mastering something, and what you need to be prepared for. Because most of the people they don't have the right mindset to really, really focus on mastering something. They just try it, and then once that pain starts, they go off to the next thing, or they get bored. Some people they can't take the pain. Some people they get bored because they're like, oh, they don't want to sit there and just focus on one thing and do it over and over and over and over and over again. Because you got to get this right before you can go on to that. And he gets bored. He's like, man, forget this. I'm going to go on to something else. And you see them. That's why they used to say, jack of all trades, what? Master of none. Yeah, because he knows a little bit of everything because he tried everything. He dibble-dabbled in everything. But he doesn't master anything. He doesn't have like real efficiency in anything. So, this is a whole nother, but then like I said, this is everything that you do in this life. It's not just seeking knowledge, but especially with seeking knowledge. If you don't have that type of mindset, you know what I mean? Anything that you have, anything that you do, if you don't have that mindset, class, you're not going to be successful in nothing. Said when you're studying, the days that you do not want to do something are going to be more than the days that you want to do something. So what do most people do? They say, I do it when I want to do it. I don't do it when I don't want to do it. So guess what? That means that the days you don't do something are going to be what? That's the majority of the days. And then the more that you don't want to do something and you don't do something, the less that you're going to want to do it. You know, so it's those days that you push yourself to do it when you don't want to do it. It makes it easier and makes it more those days that you actually want to do it. They go together. So, and that's how you get tested. You get tested by those days that you don't want to do it and what you do. I take a day off. You take a day off, and then what happens? I already wasted this day. I might as well go ahead and take another day off. Oh, there goes half the week. I might as well go ahead and knock this whole week off and turn it into a week vacation. And then what happens? Well, there you go. There goes May. May's done. You know. And next thing you know, your whole year is like that. You've gotten nothing done. So, Allahumma sallam. Most people do not wake up out of their beds early before Fajr and think about what they are going to memorize. If you are that person, you have placed yourself among the elite of this world. To be that person, you have to possess that strong drive that is going to push you to do the things you have to do every day, even when you do not want to. I should say, especially, not even when, but especially when you do not want to do them, because that's the most important time to do it. In fact, George Leonard, when he wrote in his book Mastery, he said that when you experience the plateau, he said that's where the growth is at. The growth is not without that plateau, you don't have that. So what happens is you have a plateau, which means that your body is getting used to whatever it is that you're doing. And that's where the growth is. And then once the body got it down and everything, then what? Then you see that growth. And then you plateau. Then you grow. That's real progression. Real progression is not like this. No, real progression in anything, whether it's seeking knowledge, whether it's boxing, whether it's exercise, real progression. In the beginning, you shoot up, then you plateau, then you go up a little bit, then you plateau, then you go up a little bit, then that's real progression, unless you're using steroids. All right, but you're just gonna go. No, but I'm just saying that's in anything, in any skill that you're trying to learn. I mean, he uses the example of playing tennis, I think, and Aikido, because these are the things that he does the most. And of course, tennis has a lot of skills and everything involved in it. But anything that you do, there's always going to be that progression if you're serious about it, if you're doing it for a long time. You know, because everybody gets caught up in what? When you first start something, because everything's new to you. So what happens? So everybody gets caught up in that. But then what happens when that stops? They're like, oh man, this ain't for me, man. I can't, I'm not learning anymore. No, you're an idiot, that's all. That's natural, because it's new. So what happens? Everything's new to you. So you learn a lot quicker. But now you have to perfect those basics, those fundamentals. That part, that jump was all on the fundamentals. Now focus on that. And you get those fundamentals down. And then you start to see, that growth like that, But that plateau might go on for a bit. Until it starts to go back up. But once it starts going up, it will be a steady, it won't be like a long plateau, but yeah, man, but people don't have the patience. All right, he said what? To be that person, you have to possess that strong drive that is going to push you to do the things you have to do every day, even when you don't want to do them. When that drive becomes lost, person will eventually go back to his layman's existence unless he can get it back, which is very rare. Very, very rare. Some people do. Some people go back, and they go back to America. Some people, they end up going back to America or back to their country, and then they realize what they just lost and what they left. And then Allah blesses them, and then they get real angry, puts that anger in their heart. Like, no, I'm not. I'm going to go back and I'm going to achieve this time. And Allah puts that in his heart, that drive back in his heart, and he goes back and he does it. It happens. I wouldn't rely on that being you. But it happens. It's very rare, but it does happen. Like I said, I wouldn't put my trust in that. You know, you gotta focus on what you're doing it for. And people, the distractions are what make you forget, akhi. People, they want you to get caught up in stupid stuff, akhi. People, they start to bring all these problems. Like you see, what the one thing that a lot of the students of knowledge they get caught up with is what?
Drama.
It's like, yeah, this shit said this, and they said this, and he said this, and yeah, akhi, study your deen. That's what you came here for. So some people, they get caught up so much in the drama that he leaves. He can't take it anymore. And then he goes back to his country now and he forgot what did you go. You didn't go there to find out what all this fitna that's going on amongst the ulama. That was not what you went overseas for. You went overseas to learn the Arabic language, to memorize the Quran, to study your deen. But you get caught up in all that stuff and you forgot what you went out for. And what happened is now you lost your purpose and you lost what you were doing it for. It's gone. Now, when you wake up every day, there's nothing to push you to do those things. Now it becomes like a punishment waking up every day to memorize, to read, to sit in these classes. Because now it's just like, khalas, that drive is gone. So, I mean, you have to keep focused. You cannot allow stupid people to take you away from what your goal is. Because they will, akhi, wallahi, people will jump up and try to get you distracted. Don't look over there. Don't look at the goal. Don't look at the goal. You know, look over there. Look over there. You know, they want to get you busy with so much stupid stuff. You know, nah, man, you go waste somebody else's time. That's the attitude that you have to have. Don't come to me. You got some time to talk? No, but I'm pretty sure somebody else out there does. Go talk to them. They look like they're free. You know, and you stay busy. Stay busy. Or you find people that have the same mindset. That same mindset of going out and getting it. And trying to benefit and do the things that they're supposed to do. You find those people, and those are the people that you stay with. You don't mix with these people that are just wasting their time. The people that like to drink tea and sit there and eat in the restaurants and talk about, oh, this sheikh said this and that sheikh said this, and he's in the restaurant while you're not even thinking about food. You're sitting in the room or you're sitting in the library reading, or you're in the masjid memorizing the Quran, doing what you have to do, and food is the last thing on your mind right now. But that's all they're thinking about. As soon as the sheikh's lesson stops, what? Let's go get some chicken. That's all they're thinking about is food. Where we're going to eat after the dars. Where we're going to eat. Where we're going to drink tea after the dars. These people, stay away from them. Because those people are they're just there to hang out. They're there for a summer vacation. And they're not there. They're not serious. You stay around serious people. Otherwise, you end up getting lost, and then you're going to be full of regrets, boy. Full of regrets. اللهم المستعان. إلهنا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.